Fantastic welcome to this this afternoon's roundtable event, Community Safety Roundtable. As you know, RHE Global do a few of these from time to time, but today is quite a special one in a couple of ways, really. That we are really pleased to announce that we are now working with MRI Software, and all will be revealed later on in this exciting Community Safety Roundtable, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail. So it's brilliant to have MRI on board with this this Community Safety Roundtable this afternoon. I'm Jim Nixon. I'm going to be your host during the roundtable. I'm the Director of Community Safety at RHE Global, and as a lot of you will know, probably on the table this afternoon, I'm the product owner of the Noise app. And we're also going to be joined this afternoon by Charles Pasfield, Director Product Management at MRI. Jack McConnell.
Everybody.
Hi, Charles. Thank you. Jack McConnell, Product Manager, again, MRI Safe Communities. Hi, Jack.
Everybody, nice to meet you.
Thanks, Jack. And we've got a guest speaker as well, also, who's been kind enough to join us this afternoon. Guy I know really well from dealing with him up at Gen 2, and that's Stephen Gordon, Head of Neighbourhood at Gen 2. Afternoon, Stephen.
Hi, Jim.
Thanks very much.
Looking forward to the presentation.
Yeah, really looking forward to today. Been looking forward to this. And the other thing for me is I'm actually coming live from the Netherlands this afternoon. So we have just been doing a lot of work in the Netherlands with the Noise app. So I've actually been spending the week here for obviously seeing our existing customers and also speaking to some new customers. So a great, exciting time for us as well. So why did we put this roundtable together? Well, we've been talking to MRI for a while. They've been talking to us. And one of the things that we sort of felt was that sometimes you get software companies that are in the community safety space. They are, off in silo, doing their own things. But actually, sometimes that collaboration can really, really help get us working together, looking at the problems that people face in your industry day to day, and seeing how we can make those situations better for you. So that's ultimately what we're going to be looking at today, and we want to hear from you as well. So a little bit of housekeeping before we start. We are going to run through a bit of a format in terms of looking at some of the problems. In a minute, I'm going to release, for want of a better word, a poll where I want you to populate that poll for us in terms of the issues that you're seeing tackling, your day-to-day ASB, noise complaints, the general kind of issues that you're seeing, in your day-to-day working life. And again, we're going to be hearing from Stephen a little bit later as well in terms of some of those specific issues that he's experiencing up in the northeast with Gen 2. So please participate in that. We are more than happy to sort of take questions as we go along. So if you can just stay muted, if you've got a question, raise your hand, and then we'll bring you in and come in and obviously have your question ready, and then we'll try and answer that as best as we can. We are aiming to go for around about an hour, but obviously with questions we may just go slightly over, and then we are going to do a little bit of questions, opportunity for questions at the end as well of the of today's Community Safety Roundtable. So that's kind of going to be the format. I'm going to kick off with the poll. And then I'm just going to go through the agenda. So I just want to get that started. So I'm going to launch the poll. And what we're basically asking you for is, what are your biggest challenges with ASB and noise casework? So just populate it. You should see it in the chat. So I'm just going to launch that now. And then we'll come back to that a little bit later. And so just submit your responses. You'll probably see that just come up onto the screen now. And just let us know what you're feeling, and then we'll cover that a little bit later on. So what we're looking at this afternoon, The problem, I've already mentioned this a couple of times. What are the problems that we're experiencing within our industry? What sort of things? I'm going to be running through this a little bit in the moment. Let's look at what our real world solutions are through collaboration. I've already mentioned, we see the benefits between RHE Global and MRI, that we really want to, look at those solutions together, because we see that the industry can help from those joint solutions rather than us all working on our own. So please, again, contribute in the chat around, any kind of ideas that you have as well. We're obviously going to be listening to Stephen from Gen 2 around his experiences, and then we're just going to give you a little bit of an overview about, in reality, how is this collaboration between the two organisations going to work? It's very easy talking about it. Me and Charles said this, and Jack, when we first started out on this journey, oh yeah, we're going to enter into a partnership, but how does it really work? What does it really mean for you? What does it mean for, potential customers that are, involved in community safety and need some solutions? So we'll be looking at that today as well. And as I said, populate the chat as well. We'll monitor the chat. We obviously we'll invite questions towards the end of the session as well. So let's crack on. So what is the problem? Let's have a look at what the problem is. From my perspective, this is not exhaustive. If we can just move on to the next slide. So when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about, my experience in the industry. So for those of you who don't know me, I've been involved in the industry for about 30 years. I was a police officer for nearly 21 years, very much specialised in community policing, and then moved away from policing after 21 years into social housing, where I was an ASB manager, and then moved up to Stoke-on-Trent City Council in 2018, where again I took on the role of ASB lead. And during those periods, I always implemented digital tools like the Noise app, because I could see some real benefits. But I talked to an awful lot of professionals, as I'm sure you do. And one of the things that, I'm constantly reviewing is, what problems are you seeing at the moment within the industry? So let's have a quick look at them. I think the one big thing for me that is bandied around at the moment is the big, massive rise in ASB reports. I think since the pandemic, which none of us really want to talk about and none of us really want to remember, but it happened, it's reality. And I think we've seen a massive increase since that pandemic. I think tolerance levels have really sort of gone to an all-time low. And I think when you look at the data, around 81% of housing professionals say that ASB is growing within their communities. And we all know that then creates lots and lots of casework, lots of issues. And it's really about sort of sifting through what are genuine complaints and what sort of complaints can be sort of dealt with, manage those expectations at an early occasion, and try and get those cases put to bed as quickly as possible. I was talking to an officer a couple of weeks ago that said they were managing around 70 ASB cases just on their own. Me personally, I think that's unmanageable. I really do. I think that's an unmanageable number. And, I think with the current situation that we're seeing at the moment, it's just going to get more and more. So we need an efficient way to manage those cases. We've also got the challenge of the crime and policing bill that's coming down the line, that's going to have some major implications for all of us working in the sector. So we're looking at obviously some new measures, tougher penalties, faster enforcement, great focus on victim support and transparency in ASB handling, and also the potential impact on local authority and housing provider around responsibilities. So we're going to see the introduction of the respect order. How's that going to work? I know there's a lot of, questions around that at the moment. How it's going to be implemented. Is it going to be any different to the civil injunction that we currently use? So I think that's a massive challenge. Housing providers are going to be allowed to now potentially use the closure order powers. How's that going to work? And again, more challenges. more workload. So it's all these kind of issues that are now still not ratified, but they are coming down the line, and it is going to create more sort of workload for housing professionals, local authority professionals as we move forward. So, it's going to have a massive impact. What I see as well is pressure on housing providers. Residents expect quicker, more visible outcomes. Again, this is, I think, something that's come around from the pandemic. Already mentioned the high staff workload, burnout. I'm talking to an awful lot of officers that are just saying, I don't sometimes know which way to turn because the complaints are coming in at me thick and fast. So, again, it's around good quality systems, good quality training, making sure that you are managing the expectations of these residents, customers when you're dealing with them, just to make sure that you're not raising those expectations sometimes too high when you can't ultimately solve the 100% problem. Challenges in evidence and escalating noise related ASB. We clearly see that noise related cases are top of the agenda in a lot of areas. Yes, we have councils that investigate the statutory nuisance. However, what I've seen an awful lot of is where that threshold, that high bar can't be met, somebody's got to pick it up and somebody's got to deal with it. And that's not always, and if you haven't got the right tools and the right information, that sometimes what I found is those noise complaints can sometimes get sort of left in the ether, and that then provides more dissatisfaction. Housing spotlight and housing ombudsman spotlight on noise report created a lot of emphasis around this and how tenants and residents were being let down because noise complaints weren't being dealt with effectively. So we're seeing a lot more of that. Moving on to the next slide. Again, fragmented systems and reporting. So disjointed tools and processes across agencies. We're all working on different systems. We're all scared sometimes around sharing information because of sharing information protocols with police and local authorities. I certainly saw a tightening of that when I was working in local authority. And we've got to break down those barriers as best as we can, because it is right to share information. It is legitimate to share information when the time is right and when it will help us, solve those common problems that we're all facing. We've got to work together, but I do think there are a lot of fragmented systems that kind of then can create that burden. Again, that regulatory, always a difficult word to say, expectations. So there's massive emphasis on resident satisfaction and complaint handling. And tenants, I think, are expecting so much more of you as organisations. So tech-enabled responses, and again, aligned with those tenant satisfaction measures. I did a talk at the Resolve conference around this, and this was a question that got posed to me. And we deal with an awful lot of those neighbour type disputes. And I do think we've got to get, although I totally respect the regulations and what we've got to do as professionals, there comes a point, I think, when sometimes we do have to say no, because if those cases just keep coming back in time and time again when we've investigated it to the nth degree and there's clearly no evidence to be able to take it forward, whether that be tenancy action or other types of enforcement, then surely there's got to be a point where housing professionals, local authority professionals have got to say enough's enough. And then the last one for me, but this is by no means exhaustive, a need for integrated sort of partnership-led approaches. Again, I mentioned this earlier, when me and Charles started talking about partnership, one of the things we were really keen to do was not to make the integration between MRI and RHE just a buzzword that we could talk about on social media, and there was never any meat on the bone. So for me, again, I see this in the industry, that I see a lot of people talking about partnership, but actually, is partnership really there? Does it really exist? Is there a real true partnership arrangement in your local areas, and are you getting things done? Or from what I've seen in my experience, are a couple of organisations doing the lion's share in some cases not with the right tools, not equipped with the right tools to do that. Like, for example, if I throw one out of the air, mental health issues, where you've got ASB, neighbour nuisance, and mental health. Sometimes those partners are so key, and they're sometimes missing from that table. So these are the sort of things I think you are seeing as challenges, and it'd be interesting to see again what comes back from the poll that I'm seeing being populated at the moment. So Stephen, I think it's a great time actually to bring you in now. You know, I've obviously sort of gone through some kind of general, but you're at the sharp end, I'm not. What are you seeing out in the industry at the moment from a sort of Gen 2 point of view? You know, what are your main challenges and how do you see some of these problems getting solved?
Thanks for that, Jim. As an organisation, we've been looking at how we tackle both antisocial behaviour and noise complaints over the last couple of years. We've certainly been looking at some of our internal recommendations, but also the sector's recommendations. Certainly the tragic Clarion Housing Association case certainly made us look really closely at how we deal with complaints, and we've certainly looked at those recommendations. So from a practical point of view, we previously had a noise complaint process that was included within our ASB policy. We've now got separate policies on that, so we can clearly look at the different approaches that's required. From a practical point of view, we've also looked at our structure. You've touched on the role of different staff. From our perspective, we had patches of about 650 for an NC, neighbourhood coordinator. We've done a fundamental review of our patches, but also the size of the patches going forward as well. And literally on the 1st of July, we're launching totally new patches. We haven't went for our traditional sizes or from a geographical point of view. We've looked at a number of factors that determine a patch. So you might, have arrears, ASB. We've also looked at the stock breakdown, the number of complaints we get in, particularly in flats where we find we get a lot of our noise complaints. So we've actually kind of coded our estates. So you would have more intensity ones would be about the 300 mark, less intensity about 350. And our less, required patches, we've put about 400. So our NCs are going to have about patches of on average about 350, which is a huge change for us. We've also looked at our service delivery as well. So going forward, we're not going to have a generic NC who will deal with everything. We've actually created roles for what's called our support coordinators as well. And they will be dealing with the root cause of problems. Because what we find, particularly with noise, there's many factors that can affect it. One just could be a clash of lifestyle, but it's the root cause that we need to establish. And you touched on it. Mental health is a huge concern for us with regards to our customers. And the partners out there, again, using the COVID word, they've certainly dropped off the scene.
This is what I'm seeing.
So we're going to have a neighbourhood coordinator, but also a support coordinator, and they'll be picking up the tenant support needs. And our kind of vision is that going forward, the customer will be getting a more of a rounded approach to their needs. And in essence, from a tenancy sustainability point of view and a neighbourhood kind of cohesion point of view, that should resolve some of those issues. But we're certainly on that journey. Like I say, we've been working on this for the last 8 months, and we launch on the 1st of July. Practically, from our point of view, do you want us to touch on how I feel it would benefit if MRI and the noise that were integrated?
Yeah,
Jim,
sure.
Touch
on it. It's fine.
We have two systems. We've used the noise app now. Come on, Jim, you want to tell us? I'm going to say about 5 years.
Yeah, about 5 years.
Would that be about right?
Yeah, about 5 years.
And we found it very successful from both a staff user perspective, very easy to use, but also from a customer point of view, they feel empowered, they feel part of the case. But one of our concerns with regards going forward is systems that aren't integrated. We might miss something. So for us, if we had MRI and the noise app built into it, you could see a more 360-degree issue with the customer. So they may have a noise complaint open, but also might have a garden breach open. They might have a support need case open, just so we could be more aware really and tailoring the support. So our new model is driven by efficiencies, and this would be a huge thing for us if we get them combined. Just from a case management point of view, it ticks as every box for the staff that deal with it, and also from a reporting point of view, you can merge the fact that they've got a noise complaint, but also there's a house condition, there's an antisocial behaviour. You can really draw up a picture. So it's a thing that we would certainly be interested in.
That's brilliant. One of the things I was going to ask you, Stephen, was one of the things that I saw and talking to a lot of our sort of noise app customers. I think I touched on it a little bit earlier, but what I was finding was that a noise complaint, when it comes into, I certainly saw this when I was working in social housing, the noise complaint would come in and my officers would just send it straight to the stat nuisance team at the local council. And what I found was that complaint sometimes didn't always meet their threshold, so they would kind of then abandon that sort of customer. There's nothing we can do, and then of course they would kind of the customer then would gravitate back to the social landlord. And what I found was that the complainant then was kind of lost in the ether. Have you kind of seen that? And it sounds like you're kind of now addressing that and picking that up and looking at these kind of issues, which I think is really encouraging.
From our perspective, whilst we have an exceptionally good relationship with Sunderland City Council, and as we know, they are responsible for noise enforcement, we do it ourselves. There's very few cases that we would refer to Sunderland City Council. The only ones that we would probably link in with them if there was a different tenure type on the other side. But some of the rationale is when a noise complaint comes in, it's about our staff, and we're going through a whole training academy. It's about them really looking into it, find out what's going on. Is it domestic abuse? Is it is it a cultural thing between neighbours? There's a whole host of things that could, and it's a case of not just thinking it's noise. They have to look at the full picture.
Yeah, looking at that bigger picture and making sure that it's like you said, it's about looking at that deep issue and looking at the root cause, and I think that's really, really important. I just saw in the chat actually someone just said I used the word abandon. Yeah, I appreciate it. That's probably a bit strong. What I effectively meant was it gets to a point where the local authority can do no more. I'm not saying that they've dealt with that unprofessionally or anything like that. I'm certainly not saying that. It was just a choice of words. So
I didn't pick that up, Jim, at all.
Yeah. But I think someone in the chat just picked up on that, so I just wanted to clarify that. It's more around the local authority can do no more. They've looked at it from a stat nuisance, and then it kind of gets handed back to the social housing provider to be able to then pick it up and run with it. The other thing I was going to ask you very quickly, Stephen, was it's a big buzzword at the moment, artificial intelligence. Everybody's talking about it. We talking to obviously MRI and ourselves, and I'll touch on it a little bit in a minute, but we see value within reason. What are your views on that, on sort of using AI to help?
We've just started that journey probably in the last few weeks, if I'm perfectly honest with you. We're getting a number of licenses for our staff for Copilot, etc. And we are just really starting that journey. We can definitely see the benefit from looking at, case management, good case practice, looking at different policies and how that can influence kind of our approach and service delivery model, because it is changing all the time. But that's definitely something that I've started to read about. Even though I'm a bit old in the tooth, I'm certainly having a look at it.
Yeah, brilliant. We've just actually introduced it onto the Noise app in terms of, it's actually just been introduced onto the Noise app. And basically what it does is, you mentioned the Clarion case, and I actually came across a couple of cases as well where the manual diary sheets had not been sort of picked up on in terms of any some safeguarding risks. So what the Noise app will now do, and I know that MRI are also sort of dealing with looking at this as well, is it will actually pick up on key words that are classed as harmful, and it will flag it up to the officer as a safeguarding risk. It's purely just on the written word at the moment, but it's actually eventually will come into play on the recordings too. So again, that's why I was kind of interested in sort of what you think, because I see some value in it as long as it's managed and dealt with correctly.
That was one of the things, if I could bring one of our MRI colleagues in is part of our journey with the new ASB community safety module. That was discussed, that would be one of the future enhancements. That certainly attracted us, because sometimes we feel a staff member might get too, close to a case, and I'm not using the word complacent, but if there's something in the background that could pick up buzzwords, keywords, just from a case management point of view and from a customer safety point of view, it adds massive strength for the case management for us.
Yeah, that's exactly what I agree with. I think, within reason, I think if you're managing risk and you're getting a helping hand to manage that risk, then that's got to be a good thing. Like I say, I've dealt with a few cases where they've gone to ASB case reviews and the data hasn't been picked up on within that manual diary sheet. That risk hasn't been picked up on, and that can have some serious, as we all know, that can have some serious implications for everybody, and not safeguarding that individual reporting the issue. So really interested in your points there, and really thank you. I'm going to throw it open very, very quickly. We've probably only got enough time to take a couple of questions, but if anybody wants to come in, please raise your hand. If you've got any questions for Stephen, if you've got any questions for me, please come in now, and we'll try and address them as best as we can.
Jim, there is a question in the chat to Stephen.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick look. Oh yeah, question, Stephen. Stephen, you mentioned reducing patches, taking away generic role and replacing NC and SC. Do those two roles jointly work on the same patch of approximately 350? And that's Katie Roberts. Thanks, Katie, for your question.
In essence, no. Okay, we've looked at our data and we've determined what we're going to call a traditional tenancy management NC would need to cover. We've also looked at our data from a geographical point of view. So, right, in per 1,000 properties, for example, how many support cases support coordinates do we need to manage that area? So we've based it on numbers. Does that answer that?
Does that answer your question, Katie, if you just want to acknowledge? Yeah, thanks for that, Stephen. Just a quick comment from Stuart Goodburn as well. He's put, we often find this at books in the environmental protection team. We look to identify whether the evidence supports a stat nuisance or not. This looks at the causative agent, i.e. the noise, rather than the broader issues that need addressing. So yeah, thank you for raising that, Stuart. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Charles and Jack, and they are now going to sort of go through their vision and how they see this kind of partnership working from their perspective. So Charles and Jack, I'm going to hand over to you guys.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jim and Stephen. That's really great to hear from you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic. Yeah, so just a quick introduction to myself. It's lovely to see, well, can't see everybody on the call, but it's lovely to have so many people attending. My name's Charles Pasfield, Director of Product Management at MRI Software. Yeah, I've worked in social housing all of my career, sort of 30 years now. I'm a CIH member. And certainly hearing some of those sort of comments about patch sizes. I know when I started working back in the day in Bushy in Watford, our patch sizes were certainly around 350, 400. Similar when I sort of ended up working at York Housing Association in York, where I now live. So I think that's quite interesting, sort of the sector sort of moving back to those sort of smaller patch sizes. So we're delighted to be working in partnership with Jim and the RHE team and the Noise app, and we'll talk to you in a moment about some of the sort of practical benefits of that partnership. But just very briefly, just literally a couple of minutes, just to introduce MRI Software to you. We're a global provider of property management software solutions. You'll see highlighted on the slide there, housing. That's the area that myself and Jack, we work within the social housing team. You may know us from some of our more popular brands in social housing, such as Home Swapper, Find My Engineer, open housing, Housing One and Housing Enterprise. And we're really pleased to work with nearly 900 housing organisations across local authorities and housing associations. But just very quickly, just to let you know that we do more than just social housing, whether it's any form of property, whether it's residential or commercial, we provide solutions to help manage that estate. So if you just move on, we're obviously talking today about community safety, specifically talking about, from an MRI's point of view, solutions that we think will be of benefit to you, which is our solution, which will introduce MRI Safer Communities, which we're delighted that Gen 2 are adopting at the moment. They're currently using a heritage MRI product called Streetwise, and they're migrating to our new mobile responsive SaaS solution, Safer Communities. Where does that solution fit within our full ecosystem of properties, of solutions rather, that we have at MRI? We see there highlighted. The solution can do more than just antisocial behavior management. It has a parallel module which allows you separately to ASB. Very important that I mention it's separate. It allows you to also manage a domestic abuse casework. And we've been working with Dr. Kelly Henderson from the ADA organisation around some of those requirements. So just again, to give you a flavour of what we do at MRI, again, we do more than just community safety. We work across the full range of housing functions. If we just move on to just give you a bit of an overview of Safer Communities, we're going to show you a very short video in a moment, and then start talking to you a little bit about the features that we'd like to see and develop between Jim's solution and our solution. In terms of Safer Communities, why do we think it would be useful for your organizations to make use of it? It's a true cloud mobile responsive solution, provides full case management, portals for reporting by your customers, easy to report from, really easy to use and manage casework. We found that officers who've been using the solution or have been testing using the solution, like Stephen's teams, have really liked some of our features that are quite useful for when you're working on the move, which is things like dictation capability. That actually does use a little AI feature which actually learns your voice and actually improves the quality of dictation. And Stephen was asked that question about the use of AI within his organization and within solutions that his organization invested in, and 100% it's something that's very high on our radar at MRI. The advantage of having these newer solutions or newer technology is that it's much quicker for us to introduce AI features, and I'm sure Jack in a moment will talk to you about some of those features. But it's really exciting for us because it's a bit like a sort of a hockey stick, really, of exponential growth in AI. Whether you're doing a Google search in Google, you're getting that AI summarization. Is very present, very prevalent. I see it now in WhatsApp. That was released just in the last week. So we're watching and developing this very carefully, and there's huge advantages for us in terms of using technology to support the role of community officers and neighbourhood officers who are doing work in the field. Let's just move on, and just before we go and tell you a little bit more about the solution, just to emphasise partnership. Jim introduced that right at the top of this webinar. Myself and Jack, we're extremely passionate about the world of social housing. And we really are here to always listen and get feedback from yourselves and organisations. So we're always wanting to talk to customers who are using the Noise app, who are doing community safety work. We work in partnership also with the Resolve Group. If you're not a member of that organisation, they're basically a pressure group that are very proactive in the sector and have really strong links with the government. In terms of influencing policy and helping with good practice and training in the sector. We also work with a group called ADA, Addressing Domestic Abuse, which is run by Dr. Kelly Henderson, which helps promote the study and good practice in the area of domestic abuse management. We also work in partnership with Neil Moreland and co. Some of you will work, if you have experience working across the temporary accommodation sector and homelessness. He and his associates supply consultancy and good practice advice in the sector. Of course, we're working with the Noise app and Jim very, very closely. And then 2 other sort of shout outs for other partners that are pretty key at the moment. We work pretty closely with the Northern Housing Consortium. And then also just a mention to an organisation which promoting good practice in terms of data standards. We talk about quite a lot about reporting within housing. It's really important. We gather a lot of data, but we really need to make best use of it, whether it's for TSMs in England or other standards in England and Wales and Northern Ireland. 2 groups that we are working with, including working with the Department of Communities and Local Government around trying to standardise how we report from housing solutions, and that's 2 groups, HACT in the UK and OSCRE, which is like an international group that's establishing property standards. Just giving you a little flavour really of the partnership working that we do at MRI. So I'm going to hand over to Jack, who's just going to give you a little flavour of our community safety solution, Safer Communities, and then we'll hand back to Jim and hopefully take a few more questions around the partnership. I'll over to you, Jack.
Yeah, thank you very much, Charles. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jack McConnon. I'm a product owner here at MRI Software. I've worked in the industry for just over 8 years now, in both a quality assurance and product capacity. As Charles mentioned, I'm currently in charge of MRI's antisocial behavior module and domestic abuse case management solution, which is what this video is showing you at the moment. What we'll do today is we will take a look quickly, sort of whistle-stop tour of the solution and some of its capabilities, and then I'll end my session just showing some sort of exciting proof of concepts that we've put together about that collaboration and integration with the Noise app, which we're really excited about, and we've been working with customers and we've been working with the Noise app on how best to utilize that data. And as Stephen has mentioned, bringing all that information together in one system, having that 360 view, open collaboration is absolutely key moving forward. And we believe that this is a really positive step in that direction. So the main goal of the Safer Community solution for ASB and domestic abuse case management, and Stephen touched on this really well earlier. He mentioned, it's to drive efficiencies through technology. And that is what this solution's all been about since the very get-go when we started developing it. It's out there to drive those efficiencies. It's there to save you crucial time and also enforce your organizational process and practice in a very, ever-changing legal environment that you're constantly having to adapt to. So the Safer Community solution, it comes with a range of things as part of that and to try and help you overcome those obstacles. One of those is an optional tenant self-service portal, which allows your tenants and your local residents to raise incidents and evidence directly with you through, as I say, through a portal, which allows them to almost keep a diary of events and keep track of their case progress to keep them informed and saving, again, more time and creating those efficiencies, not just from their perspective, but your officers as well. One of the things that we looked at as well when designing Safer Communities is, again, we wanted to follow that approach that you are seeing what happened, where it happened, and who was involved, but you're seeing that almost from like an audit perspective. And we designed that around sort of a multi-incident architecture so that you have a single case, and then that case has multiple incidents that you can link to it to picture or to see the bigger picture. And again, that bigger picture is reflected back into the tenant portal as well for residents to see in action if they need to. There's other functionality ingrained in the solution, so to aid you in your management of cases as well. We've got, hate incidents, you can capture those and record off of them, and then that feeds back into your tenant satisfaction measure reporting. You can capture any legal and enforcement actions that you might be making or taking out pertaining to that case. And one of the important ones is it allows for you to have custom action plans. So that means that you might have a specific action plan or workflow that your officers need to work through for a graffiti level 1 case. But for graffiti level 2, it could be a completely different plan and steps that they need to take as part of that workflow. And you can customize those and build those into your practices so that for each case coming through, you have a set process that your organization or your officers need to follow so that you're not missing anything or mistakes potentially can't get made or things like that. So it just helps enforce that sort of quality control at those levels, which is really useful. And our customers are really happy with that functionality. Other things it's got, so we've got hotspot mapping as well to help identify trends in local communities. We help with the aid of court pack bundle generation, team management for managing your caseloads across different team members and teams, case security, so if you've got cases of a confidential nature or maybe a highly sensitive nature, you can lock those down to a certain user or group of users. And then Jim, Stephen, and Charles, they've all kind of touched on AI at the moment, and that is the big topic, isn't it? Bringing AI into services as and where needed, not just doing it for the sake of it, making sure that it has a purpose in your products and that it's delivering actual benefit and not just rubber stamping an AI label on something and saying, look at us, we're keeping up with the trend. It's delivering the functionality that matters. And so that's why we took a first step with the transcription service. So being able to talk into a microphone and just have your notes transcribed for you into a notes field. It could be that you're reciting a witness statement or something of that nature, again, saving you time and helping. We've got other AI features that are currently in the works at the moment, one of them being note summarization. So being able to copy and paste notes from various different sources, paste them into one location, and having AI summarize all that up for you in a neat section that you can read and even generate into your court packs as well. Another one as well, we were seeing this in the poll when Jim was speaking about evidence and how you're analyzing evidence to make sure you're not missing anything. And one of the new AI features that hopefully we'll be looking at towards the latter part of this year is evidence severity ratings. And that's allowing AI to go through evidence that has been uploaded and basically take out all of the key information that you need to be made aware of, a transcription of any audio that's taking place. Does AI think it contains violence or noise or things of that nature, and giving you a confidence rating to say, I am this certain that this evidence contains this, or might be worth taking a look at this clip here at this timestamp for something that might have been missed. And it's incredibly powerful. I know from experience when testing out this software, we uploaded a piece of footage and it was able to pick out a cat in the video that was less than 2 pixels on the screen that all of us had missed, but it was able to identify that for us. So again, it's meant to be used as a tool, to help you. It's not going to do your jobs for you, but again, it's meant to aid you so that you're not missing anything going forward. And yep, you're absolutely right. Noise is subjective. What AI can potentially help you with is the levels of that noise, what's being spoken throughout those noise complaints, maybe being able to pick up on some more granular detail. But again, as I've mentioned, it's more of a tool to aid your process there. And we've also got what 3 words capability as well. So when you're recording a location against your incidents, we offer what 3 words to link those against. And of course, being a modern platform, we can also offer audio and video playback as well for evidence in one solution. So you can stream that to any device. So whether you're working off a desktop PC, your mobile phone, a laptop, an iPad, you can take the solution on the go with you, especially when you're out there in the field. So what we're currently looking at the moment is the first steps of this collaboration between MRI Safe Communities and the Noise app. And Christine, if you don't mind just going back a screen just before this, we should have our case overview. Now, Stephen might be looking at this going, this doesn't look like our case overview at the moment. And that is because this is our brand new version, which is going to be shipped in our next upgrade. And so this is a case overview on safe communities. And this is where we're pulling all of that information pertaining to a single case together. So I can see any upcoming court information. I can see my latest incident details. I can see a count of incidents in a widget just below there of how many are pertaining to this case, as well as any assessment overview. So my risk assessments that I'm completing often against the accused, the affected, or the general community, I've got all of that in one place and ready to access if I need to. On the right-hand side of the screen, we can see the officer sidebar just running down, and these are all the actions that I, as an officer, need to complete as part of this case's process. And then we've got two areas to mention. So again, working in collaboration with the Noise app, on the case overview, we've got a tab just at the top of the screen for noise complaints. And that's going to basically pull in any related noise incidents that have been recorded at any of the addresses that are being used on this case for further reviewing if I need to. And then just at the bottom of that screen where the people section was, you'll see we've clicked on a user there, and we can see I can view noise complaints, and that will allow me to go through and see any noise complaints that this specific individual has raised. And if we could just go to the next screen there, Christine, thank you. So this is us clicking through to the noise complaints. So you can see all of this data here is powered by the Noise app, so we're surfacing it from them. And this is where any associated noise complaints will show up. Again, for a particular case or property. We show a heat map as well for other noise complaints in the nearby area to, again, try and help identify any trends or patterns. And again, if we need to, we offer a deep linking service as part of this. So what we would allow you to do is click through and go back to the Noise app application directly itself to surface any further information that might be required at that time, or to continue working on the case through them. And then the final image that we had here, just again showing how we envision this proof of concept working, is our incident overview. So Christine, if you don't mind just going through, thank you very much. So this is our incident overview. So I've mentioned you can have multiple incidents on a case. So this is a single incident that we've got here, and we can see I've got a section for associated noise complaints. And what we'll be doing on this page is, regardless of who is involved at this incident, we're going to be pulling through all the associated noise complaints that have existed at that property, so that you've got that historic view, so you can take more proactive decisions there. And so that's kind of a whistle-stop tour of the Safer Community solution, the functionality that's on offer, and also kind of how we're envisioning the sort of partnership and the technical partnership to work between Safer Communities and the Noise app. And so again, thanks for your time. Thanks for letting me go through all of that. And of course, we always welcome the feedback. These are both solutions, Noise app and Safer Communities. They're very much solutions that have been driven from you by the very start, and that's going to continue to be the case. And so we always welcome the feedback there, whether it's in chat here, whether you want to reach out to me personally, or Jim, or Charles, or Stephen even. Please do let us know, because it is very much your voice that shapes the product, and it has been like that, as I say, since day one. So with that, I think I'll pass back to Jim or Charles, or just open it up to the floor for questions.
Yeah, thanks, Jack.
Jack.
Really interesting. Thanks very much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just thinking about sort of USPs in terms of what this would do. And I've been talking to, again, in the Netherlands this week, a lot of organisations here who say that, customer satisfaction is really high on their agenda. And we've already mentioned that today in the UK as well, that, customer satisfaction is so high. And I just think when you're looking at sort of improved response times, and also, some citizen sort of empowerment as well. I think Stephen mentioned this a little bit earlier, and those two systems are so nicely integrated. I think, and I'm not just saying this because we've partnered, but I've seen and worked on a lot of systems in relation to ASB and community safety over the years. I've seen some pretty poor ones, as I'm sure some of our delegates have got on this call today. But I have to say that when you showed me the Safer Communities portal, I was genuinely impressed, and I don't mean I wouldn't say if I didn't think it, but I actually do think it's been put in place with a lot of thought for the industry and for people working in that industry. Yeah, I am 100% impressed with it, and I think it will only get better. But I'm just really excited by this collaboration. So thanks for that, Jack. Appreciate it. Going to open it up to the floor now, really. If anybody's got any questions for Jack in terms of what he said, or Charles, or myself, or Stephen, just raise your hand and please just come in, and we'd be happy to take those questions. I think one of the points that Caroline Lacey has put is that noise can be subjective, which we totally understand. Not sure if AI will pick this up. So thanks for that particular comment. Anybody got any questions, any comments from yourself, Stephen?
No, just obviously we're working through our journey with MRI, and our expectation is certainly from a TSM perspective and from an audit perspective that the system will kind of direct us in a way and kind of reduce our risk.
Yeah,
so that's our aim going forward.
Yeah, brilliant. And that's key. You mentioned a big word there, risk. Risk is something that we talked about mental health earlier in the call. It's a big issue. We deal with a lot of vulnerability now. I think this joined up approach will just reduce that as so much more in the future as we move forward. So yeah, it's brilliant. And I'll be really interested to see how your new structure sort of pans out as well. I'm going to share this poll. But before I do, I'm going to take a question from Sarah. Hi, Sarah. I don't know if you're on mute or not.
Hiya, Sarah Heath here from Walsall Council.
Hi, Sarah, a voice I know well.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
And just into a question for MRI, really. This software that you've got on, is it purely for housing association, or are you using this within local authority on any other scale?
Oh, 100%, Sarah. So yeah, it's this platform is actually one that's also used for our homelessness allocations solutions. So, and that we have about, I think we have well over 100 local authorities who make use of this solution. We've got a building client group who are using Safer Communities, like Gen 2, like Wheatley Housing Group, and I think we've got several local authorities now signed up as well using these solutions. So yeah, to avoid for any avoidance of doubt, it's a solution for all organisations, whether local authorities or housing association, who do any form of community safety, ASB, domestic abuse work.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it. Okay, let's have a look at this this poll. Hopefully everybody can see it. So quite mixed, I suppose, but obviously complaints, I mentioned earlier, complaints was a massive one really in terms of volume. I think we have seen a massive explosion in terms of complaints. Evidence, again, evidence is obviously a big one in terms of the responses that we've had, and we can see that noise is very much up there. Does anybody want to come in and just kind of just give an explanation in terms of why they've kind of put what they've put in terms of what they're experiencing out there in the industry at the moment?
Jim, I'll jump in.
Yeah, please, if you can.
Yeah. What I felt was certainly from our perspective within Sunderland, that there's a lot of our support providers potentially expect a lot more from us as a landlord.
Yeah.
So we're very much looking at boundaries of, well, that's clearly our role. That is your role. While the feedback is certainly actually Gen 2 will fix that. Well, we don't do so much, but unfortunately, we don't have specialist mental health workers. That has to go to the support workers. That's not support coordinators. That's a different role, but the support workers that are, by the professional bodies. So that's one of the things that we're getting a little bit, that we really need to look at our boundaries.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that's the point I raised earlier about partnership, in that you can't do everything, and I think sometimes the expectation from the tenant is that you will, and I think again managing expectations is on this list. That's a big one. I think I've seen this an awful lot in the industry, where managing expectations sometimes, because of the type of people we are, we want to help, we want to support, but we do have to manage those expectations as best as we can. This has been a brilliant hour. We've literally on the nail really in terms of time. We've covered an awful lot. I think it's been really, really useful. And first and foremost, thank you to Stephen for his contribution, to Charles, to Jack for their contribution, but also to you all for you coming out today, all busy people, taking the time out to have a look at this. We are genuinely trying to put together a sort of a solution that will help, move forward and make you more efficient. So again, please reach out to any of us in the near future. If you do need any support, any help with anything, as a lot of you know, I'm always happy to sort of, take a call from you and sort of discuss a case and help in any way, shape or form that I can. And I certainly don't charge for it. So if any of you've got any sort of support needs around that, as long as your managers are happy, I'm more than happy to take those calls and give you as much assistance as I can. Charles, any parting shot from yourself before we wrap it up?
No, just to echo those thoughts. Absolutely, we want this partnership to have true value to clients of MRI products and of the Noise app. So yeah, if you fall into both camps or one of those camps, then please do get in touch, because we're really excited about building out this partnership. And just generally, we listen to the sector. Jack and I, I've not been working in social housing for a while now, so it's kind of we rely on Stephen and Stephen's team to help us build products along with the other customers that we've worked in partnership with. So we're always open to supporting organisations, even if you don't have an investment in our direct safer community solution, but you have an investment in other MRI products, then please do get in touch with us. Thank you for your time. Charles. Thank you.
Yeah, and also thank you to Christine as well for all of the work that she's done. Obviously, Christine's part of your marketing team, Charles, and I know Christine's done a lot of work behind the scenes and has obviously helped us drive the slides today. So Christine, thank you for all your help as well today. It's much appreciated. So brilliant. I think we've come banging on time. Thank you again, everybody. Hopefully see some of you soon, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.